Welcome back, folks. Haven't really gotten an awful lot done over the past week. I'm kind of running into problems on just about everything I touch. But we'll have a quick look around and show you where I'm at on the MGA. And then we're going to do a little time travel, and I'm going to jump back about 5 years in time when I did a big job on my my motorhome, my 2000 Minnie Winnie Deluxe. The whole front cab over was pretty much rotten, and I had to do a repair on it. So I'm going to throw up a video on that. But here's where I am on the MGA. Now, I tried doing did a bit of work on the gas tank, but I figured out that I don't have the right solvents to clean it out properly. So that's on hold until I get some chemicals. I started doing a little more work on my handbrake, but it's seized right up. I can't get that that rod out of there, and so I've got it soaking, and I couldn't go much further on that. I did get a bunch of parts cleaned up and pretty much ready for paint, so that's some progress anyway. And I did a preliminary cleaning on the second differential, so I still have to sandblast that, and I'm still going to have to take it apart and check it all out. But anyway, that's about it for what I did on the MGA. And yeah, so we'll do a little time travel, go back 5 years, and I'll do a little video on the RV repair. Today I'm trying to do a repair on the cab over on a 2000 Minnie Winnie DL. You can see, if you look up in the top corner here, that the fiberglass on the outside is starting to buckle a little bit. The cab is sagging. The front there is a little concave. You'll see in a little bit. I went inside, and there's an awful lot of rot. I suspect that those marker lights on top are the culprit, but I haven't really ascertained that for sure yet. I'm going to take a walk around to the other side, and you can see here the outside panel is buckling out altogether. It's no longer underneath the trim piece. Now I'm on the inside. As you can see, I have already removed all of the cabinets from up there and the television. That was relatively straightforward. There are a few screws that are somewhat hidden. This beam across here, you can see that black beam. That supports the weight of the television, the weight of the cabinets. You can see some screws at the end. That was screwed into the front face of the cabinets, and you have to get those screws out from the back side. I found that the cabinets themselves, you could slide them out to the middle to pull them out, and then take that front face off by getting at those screws. There's all my rot. It's just completely disintegrated. I'm going to, I think, have to pull apart those sidewalls and have a look in there and see what's going on. There's perhaps up in that corner been a little bit of leakage. I'm not quite sure. Looks a little bit rotten down on the bottom corner there, down below. Up above, I don't really see very much signs of moisture at all.
At one point there was a little bit of staining up here, but I don't understand if that was if that caused it. Why don't I see it running right the way down? So I still haven't gotten to the source of the problem. But perhaps those marker lights, which would be right up along there somewhere. I'm up on the roof now. It looks like I'm going to be taking the whole front cab over off completely. I found a lot more rot. Here I've removed the strip that hides all the screws for the trim, and the little pry bar sitting there is what I'm using to just kind of cut through the butyl tape that's underneath it and release the trim. Okay, I'm back, and I have done a bunch more demolition. I've taken the bulkhead panels out on either side. And overhead, there were two plastic strips. When I pried the strips out, they revealed 2 rows of screws. And those screws were holding up a piece that spanned across the joint up here. So I undid all of those screws and took that cover piece down and found another row of screws right up along here. So I've taken those out, and I think that has freed up the roof a little bit. There's probably another row of screws on the outside. I haven't gotten up there to take care of that yet. I think I also still have a couple of screws holding down the panels on the outside. I've taken the aluminum extrusion, the trim piece, off the outside, but I do believe there's a few more screws that were hiding underneath it. And I believe that because when I took the lower part came down, and it tore out my fiberglass a little bit because there were screws there that I didn't know about. But I don't think that's going to cause me a problem. So I think that top is almost ready to come off. Now I have also loosened off the bed platform. What I did is I took the plastic strip out, pried it out around here, and that revealed a row of staples. So I went around and pulled out all of the staples all the way around, and then up underneath here there's a row of screws, and that's what holds that plywood down to the cab, right the way around. So I've got all those out, so I'm almost ready now to remove that plywood. I would imagine there's a couple of beads of caulking of some sort up underneath here, so I'm probably going to have to get in there and do a bit of prying. But first I'm going to go to the outside, and I'm going to take out the last couple of screws up underneath the joint. Okay, I've run into a bit of a snag. I've got the plywood piece loose, and I've discovered some hidden screws. It's loose all the way around the outside, except for underneath here. I think they must have been put in, and then the top was laminated after the screws were put in. So I think I'm just going to either pry it out, or I'm going to get in there with a Sawzall and just cut through the screws, because when I put it back together, I'll be doing it a little differently. Okay, here we are again. Now, what I've done is I found it very, very difficult to peel off the inside panel. Where it was rotten, it would come apart, but where it was solid, it was next to impossible. So what I'm doing is I'm putting in an overlay panel on the inside. It's not quite a perfect match to the existing, but close enough. What I did is I made a cardboard template, and when I was happy with the template, then I transferred it onto my finished panel and cut it out, and here it is. It's not glued yet, but I think what I'm going to do is use a construction adhesive underneath and spread it all over, and then I'm just going to put a whole bunch of those spring clamps everywhere I possibly can, and hope for the best. There's an aluminum structure inside all of this, so it's not really relying on these panels for strength. So I'm pretty sure this will be just fine. The other side actually looks very good, but I will be putting an overlay panel there as well, just so the two sides match. Okay, here I have the new inside panel clamped in place. I'm gluing it in place with Lepage's PL200 construction adhesive. I'm hoping that when I squeeze it in like this, will press into the old wood and give it some additional rigidity. But as I said previously, I think the aluminum frame provides most of the strength here, and it was really only the front portion of the old panel that was rotten. So I think this overlay will do quite nicely. Now here's a view from the outside. It's still the inside panels that are clamped into place, and there's the other side. Haven't got around to fixing this front yet. That'll come after I put the base back in place. Here you can see that I've done a little bit of scraping. I've cleaned out all the old wood. The styrofoam was still solidly in place, so I'm going to leave that. I'm replacing the boards. I think what was in there before was cedar. I'm replacing them with solid fir. It's relatively rot resistant and should be a little bit stronger. There's a few spots where the decorative plywood hadn't gotten wet, and it's still quite firmly attached. I'll probably do a little bit more scraping and try and get that off, but if it won't come, then I'm just going to sheet right over top of it with the new marine plywood. Now back in the shop, I've been working on the lower panel, the one that goes directly in front of the base here. And I'll be going in there and showing you exactly what I'm doing with that. That's the panel that attaches there. The styrofoam came off fairly cleanly, and I've done some scraping down there, and I've got the majority of it right down to the old glue, and so that's ready to receive the new panel. Okay, now here's that lower panel. What I've done is I've got the fir, and it is attached to marine plywood on the other side. This piece isn't glued in yet, so I'm about to do that. I've been using a waterproof glue for that, and then I will glue in this styrofoam, and I'm going to be doing that with a water-based contact cement so it won't eat the styrofoam. Okay, I'm back at it, and what I've just done is I've hung that flexible panel in there. I glued it with PL200 along the top, then I put a temporary batten over top of it so that I could screw it down. I initially tried using a two-sided tape up there and it didn't work, so now I've gone to the PL200 and I've screwed it in place. I will be taking those screws out and taking that batten off there, and the screw holes will be covered by the marine plywood that I'll be putting in to cover that ugly piece that you can see up above it. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this, but you can see how the The outer fiberglass panel has come right away, and this second layer of the plywood is still somewhat solid, but there are areas where it's loose. So what I'm going to do is squeeze PL200 in between the layers everywhere I can and cover this complete surface in here, and then I'm going to clamp it similar to what I did back there. I've got a board on the inside and a board on the outside. I'm clamping it between the two so that it stays perfectly flat. So my next step is to put the PL in there, and I have a panel ready to put over it. It's sitting down below me here. And on the inside I'll just use some blocks so I don't damage my my interior panel. Okay, I have the PL200 in there between both the surfaces. I've got some in behind there everywhere that I could, and so now to put the board on each side and get the clamps on. Now there we have it, all glued up with PL200 and in the clamps. You can see how I've got the boards on the outside to keep the panel flat. I also have blocks on the inside so I don't damage the interior panels. Now I wait 24 hours and then I'll take those boards and I'll go over and do the opposite side. Okay, I've taken the clamps off of that side panel, and it looks like it's worked out just fine. Nice and solid. Okay, here I have another sheet of marine plywood pressed into place. I actually have a second sheet of plywood over top of it to try and even it out and spread the load. And that one that you can actually see I'll be removing, and the marine plywood, the thin stuff, is underneath. What you're seeing is a piece of 5/8. Okay, it's a little bit dark in here. I think you can see that all right. I've got that front all closed up and back in place. I didn't document that very well with video. I kind of got in a hurry to try and finish things off. But what I did was this plate, I put in 3 screws fastening it to this panel, and then I used 3 long screws, one at each end and one in the middle, and the T molding underneath, I fastened it, but I left it hanging down loose. I also had the mastic putty on both sides, both flanges of that T. But by leaving it hang down, I was able to shove that front piece into place. I pre-attached it to the fiberglass, initially with PL, and I tried to clamp it between 2 boards, but that didn't work because I couldn't get enough clamps up to really cause that PL to spread out. So I didn't get enough surface contact. So I scraped all that off, and I went and used contact cement instead. And well, it was a kind of a nervous operation, sticking the panel to the fiberglass that was hanging down at the front. We did get it in place first try, and that held very well. Now coming to the outside, you can see what I did. I propped a ladder there. I hammered some stakes into the ground, and got a piece of steel there that's keeping my ladder from sliding. I did that so that I could climb up and literally lay on the hood and lean back against the windshield. I had 2 people helping me, one on each side, and I got up there in the middle because I found that it was sagging in the middle and hard to get it into the slot, into that channel. So the 3 of us were able to push it in, get it in fairly tight. As I get up a little closer, you see I kind of botched up a little bit. I've got a bit of a buckle in the fiberglass up there. My mistake there was when I put that trim piece on the outside, I started at the top, tightening down the screws as I went around, and by the time I got to the bottom, it was buckling. I loosened the screws off and tried to push it out, but I was unsuccessful. I probably should have tried a little harder, but there it is. I got a buckle in there that I'm going to have to seal up and live with, I think. If you go back to the beginning of the video and you see the way it was before, there was actually a buckle there in the first place. So it's a little worse than it was, but whatever. I still have to put the outer trim piece on this side. I'll take that temporary batten off and run the screws back in, and then put my trim piece on with the wide mastic tape. And after that, I'm going to go over everything on the outside and reseal everything. I have quite a bit of cleanup to do on the sides. I had some duct tape on there before when I was trying to keep that together, so I got to clean off all that residue off. And same thing up at the front, but I think it'll clean up nicely. And I'll have to do some caulking and some sealing around that corner. I still have to go around my window and trim off all that excess mastic putty that's squeezed out when I tighten the windows in. But I think everything will clean up nicely. And up on the roof, I'm going to have to go over everything up here, because I can see, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I can see some cracking and some voids and that joint up there. That vent, I want to go around and reseal it, make sure it's good and tight. And each of those marker lights is going to have to come out, because that's definitely where the water was going in. And I'll have to reseal every one of them. I went out and tried to buy some new marker lights, but I really couldn't find anything that was a 2-wire that would replace those and be any better than what's there. So they're gonna stay, but I have to pull each one out and reseal it. Now this is where I got into trouble on the first side. So what I'm going to do is leave those screws out on the curve. What I did on the other side, I got some long self-drilling and tapping, and I drilled it right into the aluminum, and I pulled it tight, and that resulted in that buckle over there. And then I was unable to actually loosen it off enough and get the fiberglass back into place. So on this one, I'm leaving those screws out for now. I've got a support stand. It's actually a cargo prop, and I'm just holding it up into place. I'm going to put the rest of the screws in, and then I will come back and I'll tighten that up and just snug it up enough to close up the gap. I'm inside. I'm starting to put the cabinets and the interior back together. Basically, it's the reverse of removal. But you can see here, I'm attaching the front face to the cabinets to that beam. I don't have the beam fastened down yet. I figured I'd put the cabinet fronts on, and then I would slide it around until I was happy with the position, and then I will fasten it down. It probably means pulling that box out again to get at the screws, but I don't have those fastened in yet either. They're just sitting there to get my alignments. So you can see here, I've got I've tried to line it up with the holes as best I can. I've got it clamped in place. Now I'm going to climb in around behind it, run the screws through the beam, and go from there. I'm up on the roof. I got the side trim pieces on. I was going to get up and just caulk along the edge of them, but I noticed that the sealant used on the roof, somebody has redone this at one time or another, and it's really not well adhered to the old factory sealant, and so I'm going to peel it all off and go over the whole works. Okay, now as a final touch, I'm going around and resealing all the marker lights. That's definitely where my leak was coming in. Some of them don't look like they had ever been sealed, and a few of them somebody had gone back and sealed on the top side only, but that doesn't protect from the rain when you're driving. So the last one more to do, and it's a little hard to get up here and do these. You can't really get a ladder in close enough, but if you happen to have a tractor handy. But there we go. Well, I think that's all for my video. I'm planning an upcoming adventure, and it involves the twin cam, and I'll be taking this Winnebago. And anyway, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and come on back and see what kind of an adventure I'm cooking up. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.